Okay, artists, let's talk about our Winter Village Part 2. So what you're going to need today is a blank sheet of paper. Any type will do. The colored paper that you made last week. Some glue or tape. Scissors. And whatever coloring supplies you have, I have something in black, something in blue, and something in white. Okay, so the first thing for our Winter Village is on our blank sheet of paper, we're going to kind of draw the background for our village. So what I'm gonna start with is my black, and I am going to start by drawing some hill shapes. So I'm gonna go from one side of my paper to the other. I'm not going to make them super big or go all the way to the top. You could if you want, but I'm just gonna kind of do some overlapping, they're kind of like curved lines that stretch across my paper that my village is going to be built on, okay? So I'm doing this kind of in a permanent marker. So if you have a Sharpie or if you just have crayons, you just use whatever you have. Okay, so I've got my hills for the background. Now I want to fill up the sky here, and so that's what I'm gonna use my blue for, because then on top of that, we're gonna do snowflakes. So what I decided to do is you could use whatever you have and just color the sky blue. But for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use that watercolor marker trick and just take my watercolor marker and kind of do some lines here in the sky. And I don't need to color the whole thing because then I'm going to use my water to activate the ink in the marker. So friends, if you do not have these kinds of markers, of course, you can always just color the sky. You might want to use a light blue for the sky. I kind of went for this darker blue because when I do my snowflakes, it's going to really help them to stand out. But you use, as always friends, since we're at home doing this, you always use whatever you have, okay? So it doesn't have to be exactly how Miss Einerson does it or exactly what she uses. You just use whatever you have on hand, okay? So after I finish painting this, friends, obviously I can't glue anything on when it's wet, and I definitely can't draw anything on it while it's wet. So if you didn't use paint or water, I should say, then you can get started on the next part right away. But I'm gonna have to wait a little bit for this to dry. And so while I do that, I'm gonna get started on getting my village houses ready. Okay, so friends, as you can see here, I have cut out my houses from the colored paper that I made last week. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get that back, and actually I have some leftover scraps that I've saved from other projects that we've done that I might use as well. But if you only have the papers that you created, that'll work great too. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is for my houses, I am going to cut some shapes. Now for my village, I'm gonna start by using my paper here to cut some rectangles out. Now, I want my village to be, each house in my village to be kind of unique or different from the other houses. So I might cut some houses that are taller or wider than others. I might do some little short houses So friends, as you are cutting the shapes of your houses, I really want to encourage you to make the houses different sizes. So see here, I have one that's kind of tall and skinny. This one's kind of short. This one's a little bit bigger. So as you work your way and start cutting shapes out of your paper, really kind of think about the different shapes you want for your houses. So what I might do, another shape of house that I really like is I cut a rectangle here, and then I kind of curve my scissors and my hand to kind of make a rounded top to a house. Okay, but I really want you guys to get creative and think about the different shapes that you might use. And I'm gonna keep cutting some out because I want my village to be full of houses. So let's see here on my first one. I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses. So if you guys could cut out about 5 or 6, you might even do even more. Cut out those houses, the different shapes that you like. And also, as you can see here, on my one I just made, I used some triangles from the different papers for the roofs. I even cut some little rectangles and I used those as doors. You might even do some squares for windows. Oh, friends, I just really want you to think about all the different shapes that you could use to put this village together. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep cutting some stuff out to get ready to use. Okay, artists, so I have all my little shapes cut out and I'm ready to design my village. Okay, so before we do anything, now that my blue sky is all dry, I'm gonna take a white, this is actually an oil pastel, but you guys could use a crayon, whatever you have, paint even if you have it, and I'm gonna create some snowflakes in the sky because remember we are calling this winter village and our hills are covered in snow, so I'm gonna make it snowy in the background. Now if you have some lightweight paper that is still a little damp, just be very careful because it would be very easy to rip this paper if it was still damp. So mine is a little damp, but if you wait just a little bit longer, it should be all the way dry. So just be careful when you color them on for the snowflakes, and there we go. Okay, so now it's time to build our village. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to start gluing some of my houses on. So I'm going to take and start on one side of my paper and work my way all the way over with the buildings. Okay, so I can kind of decide where I want to place it on my hill here. Of course, if I'm gonna include a roof, I wanna leave room at the top. And I'm just gonna start mixing and matching my shapes to create my village. Oh man, this is my favorite part because all of the different shapes that you cut out may have different colors on them, so mixing and matching is really fun for your village. Okay, so I'm gonna keep going until I fill up my entire hill here, and then I'm gonna talk about adding some details. Okay, artists, so I've mixed and matched and I have built my village. Let's see how many houses I got on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 houses. And remember those snippets the story talked about those shapes that might not fit or have an exact perfect shape like a triangle or a rectangle or a square? Well, they can actually be turned into things for your village as well. So I'm excited to see what you come up with. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some details with my black marker or whatever you have. So see how some of the houses here are missing things like windows and doors. Well, I could also add those with a marker or a crayon or whatever I have on hand. So some of the windows I cut out of my paper, some little squares and things, but I can also add details to my houses with a marker here. And don't be afraid, my friends, to get really creative with your details. So think about how you can spice up your village with different doors, windows. You might even want to add some people around your village. Just really get creative here with what you want to add. So with that, I'm going to finish adding my details here, and I can't wait to see your villages, friends. Have fun.